Hey everyone, 065 here, and today I want to show you something really cool. I was meant to do an unboxing on this because I did mention this in my live stream, but I just decided not to, since since yesterday we were celebrating on Nintendo's 110's birthday, which is actually today's, but we just went ahead and did it yesterday so we could have some extra time to play on the water slide, which was really fun. But since we had to go down there, I just decided not to do the unboxing, but it's alright. I got two boxes in. One box from Joe Beam Videos that consists of a lot of Santas, a Zadok, and a few little extra things for my girlfriend. And this big boy arrived. These were supposed to be here next week on Monday and or Tuesday, but the fact they arrived early yesterday was actually really surprising. So I did end up teasing this on the community tab of my channel, and a lot of people were guessing either it's just an ordinary V2, is it a prototype, was it a third gen, but a few of you got right, and it is a display model V2, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are probably losing your mind. It's like, what? A Robosapien V2 display exists? Well, I had my speculations for a while. Before anything was even said about a display for this, I didn't think one would exist, because due to it having wiring issues at the time, it's like there's no way WowWee would make a display for this. Because most of these displays they make, well, I think some would take batteries, but for a good majority of it, they would take an adapter. And if they take an adapter, it's like, yeah, that would be a fire hazard. So there are two other speculations that brought my attention, and one was being my friend Chris saying that he recalls seeing a display V2 on a episode of Storage Wars, which episode was never found, so I don't know if that was ever true. The second one being when Robo Community used to still be a thing, there was someone that had mentioned that they had gotten a V2, it didn't have a base or anything, it was just a robot, and there was wires sticking out of it, and there were no battery contacts in the feet. So it's like, wait, that might actually be a display V2. And the image they had for it was gone, because at the time period the website had gone down, so the images were no longer available. So from there, it was never really known if it was true or not. Now, this shows up on eBay a few days ago while we're eating dinner, and I'm literally sitting on the table flipping out because I'm like, it's real. The V2 display is real. But of course, what drew my attention when I first saw it was the base that he was standing on, and when they had him laying down, you could see wires coming out from this foot, and it's like, this is it. This is the holy grail of WowWee robots, the V2 display. Of course, the display I got isn't complete. It's missing practically the whole base that it's supposed to stand on, with the button, speaker, and connections and everything. But it's actually pretty interesting because there's a lot more to this than what realized. Of course, his hands are open, and the photo his hands are closed. What I always do with my V2s, I always remove the springs around the chest area to keep the hands open, so the springs wouldn't, lose tension over time, or so they wouldn't break. Some little interesting details on this is that the cables and everything here, he does have his buttons. Like, he has every button you can imagine, including power switch and foot bumper sensors. But of course, for display, they're not used. Not even the power button on him is used. So within the hands, it still more likely has the buttons themselves, because when I looked at the harness, there is, instead of there being a harness with like multiple cables on it, it would be a harness of 3, and that harness of 3 would just be for the potentiometer for the wrist, because the wrists do move. And of course, this board is like almost bland in a way, because there's like little to no connections. He doesn't even have a camera on him. What they have is some plastic that pretty much covers up the sensors and the camera. And I did open the back of the head, and there's only like 3 cables sticking out. Well, pretty much, let's see, 4 cables, and that's literally for the eyes. His eye motor mech is still inside, but is not used. Now, everything on him is used, like the side to side, the twist, the head move from side to side and lifting up. But what's interesting is his feet have the motors, but they're not enabled. And his foot bumpers, the little boards for the bumpers are there, but other than that, there's nothing else for this. And yes, the inside of his feet, he does have the wings for the battery compartment, but there's no battery contacts inside. Another thing that's interesting with him is that he doesn't have a speaker in him, which you would think, hey, they made a display, so why not just use a speaker in the robot instead of the base? They could have done that, but they didn't. And it's the same thing with the reptile and the raptor display. They have the holes for their speakers, but they don't use it. Over here. Now, what's interesting within this board switch is that instead of it being an oval shape, it's actually a square shape, and of course it's blank, but does have writing and a piece of tape and a button, which is interesting. Something interesting is that his board, his main daughter board, actually has the words exhibit written on it, and it was dated 2006, so this is when the display was more likely built and, you know, released to the public, which I don't even know what stores even carried a V2 display, because I know there's a V1, a Raptor, a Reptile, a Tribot interactive displays. Of course there was Chip, but that's not really much of an interactive display. But within WowWee's older robots, yes, those displays were made, but it's unknown where each one's located. I know it's Tribot.
And we have a Chip one and a Tribot.
I already mentioned that one. Yeah. With the Tribot display, I know he was showcased in some stores of JCPenney, because when I was a kid, I saw the Tribot display in person, but it wasn't working. And so it's like, okay, so JCPenney had to be one. Other than that, I don't know. The Robosapien, maybe Macy's. I know Sharper Image did carry it. Raptor and Reptile, I think Raptor was potentially Toys R Us, because in the video, it looks like to be a Toys R Us. Reptile, I'm not too sure. So that one's a mystery. But now with the V2, is even a bigger mystery, because it's like, well, dang. For anyone wondering, the wires that go out from one foot for the power and everything, they actually use good wires, which is really surprising, but it makes sense, because if this is going to be run on wall electricity, then, you know, it would make sense. Now let me show you the bottom of the base. And he does unscrew from it and everything. His wires would normally be sticking out from this leg, but they're kind of pushed in because when I was putting the base back on, they're not long enough to pull out, so yeah, I had to do that for the meantime. And with the help of Ivan and staying up until like almost 4 in the morning trying to get this thing to power on, we finally kind of figured it out, which our mess is like literally right here to try to energize it. So the robot will do a self-diagnostics and everything. He'll do all that, but interactivity wise, something I mentioned again to do was do the laser tracking thing. So he will make this sound, but if I like were to connect two wires together and just make them like pulse in a way, he will literally do that whole feature. Of course his legs won't move, but his body and everything will start moving, which is pretty interesting. So who knows what the display will consist of, because sometimes the displays for him will consist of a remote. Raptor, Reptile, and Sapien did have remotes on there, and I know Robosapien's remote had wires coming out of it, but Raptor and Reptile, I don't know, because I haven't managed to find many images of them out there. So with the V2, who knows how his display was supposed to be set up. So if ever the base shows up, then that would be really great, but that's very unlikely. And with V2 displays being out there, there's very, very little of them, especially the fact that none of them have ever surfaced on the web except for one. But who's to say? Well, actually, this obviously can't be the one, because theirs didn't have this base piece and this one does, so who knows. Eventually I will properly wire him up with the batteries and everything, so I can show you all what he does. Now for dance demo, the way I was thinking he would function is where the minute you push the button, he would immediately power on, do like his self-diagnostics, and then dance. But what's interesting is when this is immediately powered on, he just stays on after that, just waiting to see what gets to be done with him. Of course, he can't really do remote commands because, again, he doesn't have any sensors or anything of that matter. But, yeah, I think that's about it. So, yeah. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. And I'll be updating you guys on everything. Thanks for watching, and bye.